Welcome everyone to another Ballet Vero Beach Insights conversation. I'm glad that Jordan and I are already laughing. Yes, I am Adam Schnell. I'm the Artistic Director and CEO of Ballet Vero Beach. Once again, behind the camera, Jordan and I were discussing how this is awkward with only her on frame and me off frame. Feels a little bit like a FBI interview or something like that. But
feels that way.
We're going to try to keep it fun. So we are here today with Jordan Miller, who at this point, I believe, is our most frequent Ballet Vero Beach guest artist.
Am I?
You are. You've even beaten Amy and Tiffany, your konverjdans co-founders. So there's a lot of pushing downstairs and throwing marbles to get here. I'm kidding. Those are jokes.
The only way to get ahead in
Jordan
your career.
Is not that way at all. So we're just going to have a nice conversation today about Jordan's background, about her work with BVB, and a little behind the scenes insight into how Firebird is going. So Jordan, welcome. We're so glad you're back in Vero. We love having you here for extended stays. Tell me, how did you get started in dance?
My mom likes to tell the story that she bought a little black tutu for me from Target because I would never stop dancing, and I put it on, never took it off, and she was like, oh, this kid needs to be in dance. So I started doing the jazz tap ballet track. I was a competition kid for many years.
Wow.
And then someone was like, you need to do ballet. So around 8th grade, I don't know how old that is, around 8th grade.
14.
Yeah,
14.
I went to like a full-time ballet high school in Indiana, where I'm from, and it was great because it was mornings were academics from like 7 till noon, and then from 12 to 4 it was purely ballet training. So
wow.
Did that.
Did you, when you started dancing, I know a lot of us, myself included, I wouldn't say I was extensively a competition kid, but I did do a few competitions back in my day before I really discovered ballet. Mm-hmm. Did you have any sort of like angst in the transition from jazz tap competition and just lightly on the ballet to when you went to that high school? Was that an easy transition for you? Did it fit?
I mean, for a while I tried to do both. I tried to uphold the the long evenings of other styles of dance, but I guess I've always just known that I wanted to dance. I was never one that had like a dance at this company or this track kind of thing. I just wanted to dance. And ballet and the training I was getting felt like the thing that would get me the furthest along in that dream. And I guess at first when I was making the transition, I was sort of like, yeah, ballet is so much better. But then as I progressed in my career, I'm so grateful that I had some sort of background in just other things, because that's what I do now, is a hybrid of other things. So
it's funny that I always think it's funny where dancers end up and how we sort of specialize and why we like what we like, but it really is it's almost like taste for food or taste for wine or something like that. It evolves. Like what you started with and what you thought you liked when you were younger, like I cannot drink a Riesling right now. Prove me wrong, audience, prove me wrong. That's where I started with wine, but I couldn't do it now.
It's the worst.
Oh God, we just insulted an entire region of wine. We're fine. It's gonna be great. So back to ballet. So it's interesting to me that if you really didn't feel drawn to a certain genre, you just wanted to dance, how in the holy heck did you end up at School of American Ballet? Because for those of you who don't know, Jordan went to School of American Ballet, which arguably is the best ballet school in this country, and actually was an apprentice with New York City Ballet, which, again, depending on who you ask, arguably the best company in this country, one of the best in the world. So how, from someone who wasn't necessarily concerned with specializing in a certain genre, how did you end up at SAB?
I guess it was, I don't know, it was still just like a vast interest in dance, but ballet was like something new, and it was so challenging, like point shoes and everything was so challenging, and there was something about the technical element of it when I was a student that was so interesting and really scratched that like perfectionism itch that I had. so I guess I loved the challenge of it. I loved the rigor, like how hard you had to work. And it was fun. Like I felt like I could perform, and yeah, I did quickly fall in love with it once I made that transition. But the other things were always in the back of my head. So I was going to summer courses and things like that. I spent several summers at Pacific Northwest Ballet, which was a pretty well-rounded program as far as other genres and things. And then my summer at SAB was my last summer course in 2011, because it's kind of just an extended audition period, and then at the end of the summer they ask you to stay. And I remember when my mom dropped me off for the summer course, she like started crying as they were moving me into the dorm, because she was like, "This is it. I can feel it. You're not going home."
Oh my gosh!
And
she
felt it. She felt it, and I was like, no, like I never felt like it was in the cards for me, even though lots of other people believed in me. I never really thought that it would happen, and then it did, and I moved to New York at 16.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you were talking about the sort of rigor and how difficult ballet is and how it sort of scratches that perfectionist itch in a lot of us. I always tell people that now in ballet class, it used to be when I was performing, but I don't perform anymore. Now when I get to take ballet class, it can be one of the only times that my mind is quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that way? Do you get to that point where you're like, I know, you also run a company. I know it's hard these days, like you're a freelancer, you run a company. It's hard as we get older, but any time that I can really hone into it and really focus, I feel like my mind just goes quiet and you know what you're supposed to do. Do you feel that?
Yeah, it happens in class, and it happens when I'm like choreographing something or really in the like creative development zone, I guess. That's when I'm like at my best, maybe. I don't know, but
certainly quietest mind. But
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
most centered.
I take a quiet mind any day over an active, loud mind, honestly.
Yes.
So you went to SAB summer course, which, as you said, is sort of an extended audition for the year-round program. And how many years were you at SAB training?
I was at the school for 2 years, and then your senior year, your D year is what they call it, you're like doing all the company auditions that come through New York, like all of them. And then I got an offer for an apprenticeship with Dresden in Germany, and I went to Kay, who was the director of the school, and was like, "Hi, I got this job offer, like, do you have any offers for me?" Because that was kind of protocol, is you go into the world, you see what you can get, and you come back and you're like, "Hi, do you want me?" And then they said I should say no to the offer in Germany, but didn't fully offer me the apprenticeship at that moment. It was a few weeks later when they told me I had an apprenticeship with New York City Ballet. And that was another pretty crazy moment that I never thought was in the cards for me. Just watching everyone else in my class at the school, people that had been SAB babies, as we call them, and just all these beautiful dancers. And then I got the job. And I was like, what is my life?
So when I talked we did one of these with one of your konverjdans co-founders, Tiffany. We did talk a little bit how you and she and Amy both have this sort of, I will not use the harsher words that I want to use, but you have this sort of fork in the road where all three of you were in sort of amazing ballet positions. And made the switch. We don't need to get into why you made the switch and why you are not currently in New York City Ballet, but what was that period like for you when all of a sudden you knew it wasn't going to be New York City Ballet, yet you were still in New York, and I'm assuming you still have this huge desire to dance. I always find it fascinating to ask dancers about some of the, we'll say darker periods in their career.
Yeah, transitional moments.
Right, because usually we all come out stronger on the other side, but what was that period like for you? Yeah,
I will say that it wasn't necessarily my choice to leave New York City Ballet, but it happened. And it was such an interesting period because, hindsight is 20/20. So looking back, I know that I would not have been happy there because I'm such an individual and I have so many different like creative needs that being a cookie cutter more or less, or having to work so hard to look a very specific way and perform and do roles in a very specific way would just not have worked for me. Like the environment wouldn't have worked for me. It was too, I guess I'll say too rigid. Yeah. So,
and you know, to a certain extent, large companies like that,
yeah,
you kind of have to have a rigid structure in place because
Absolutely.
Otherwise you've got, I mean, how many dancers do they have right now?
I don't know.
Over 100? Right.
Something around there,
sort of everyone becomes untethered if it's not like, this is the way it is, this is the hierarchy, this is how you go through the ranks, if you even get to go through the ranks. Okay, I'm not going to interrupt, but so you were feeling, hindsight, it would have been too rigid for you, but then what about like actually trying to figure out what happened next?
Right, so in the moment it was like, it was like the ground had been pulled out from under me and I didn't know what to do. So I went back and did a bunch of auditions for other companies and then eventually started auditioning for some smaller, I guess, freelance or pickup companies in New York. And eventually, long time, but I got a job with a place called Ballet Next in New York that was run by Michelle Wiles, who was an ABT dancer. And this is where I met Amy and Tiffany, and I didn't know much about the company. I was just like, great, somewhere where I can dance, somewhere I can take class. I feel like that company was also in a transition phase when I joined it, but I got to do some fun roles that were much more, I guess, sort of contemporary ballet, or more contemporary than the Balanchine rep that I was used to. But the biggest thing was that it almost felt like I had experienced New York for the first time, because having moved at 16, I moved into a dorm room. I was like going to school,
dorm room at SAB is like
I was
you're
so
living in
laser
Lincoln Center.
focused.
Like you could literally just exist on that block.
Yeah.
And never go outside of Lincoln Center.
Yeah. So it was like so laser focused as a student, and now I'm working for a smaller company that like requires me to get a real job in addition to my dance job. And you know, I meet people who have lives outside of dance, and I'm like seeing live music and all of these things, and I'm like, this is incredible. There's so much more to the world than my little tiny dance world. But I think just experiencing New York and all of the art it has to offer and meeting so many different people was a huge thing for me, because coming out of, I guess, like a New York City ballet or strictly ballet experience and just the way it ended for me, I didn't feel like I had a lot of like self to stand on, and that just felt like the biggest thing in that moment. That was like, I didn't know who I was,
and
so there was a lot of discovery.
What's funny about that is talking to a lot of dancers, a lot of choreographers, I feel like that happens, or even artists, I feel like that happens to all of us at some point. It doesn't matter, like I feel like I know you well enough, Jordan. Had you stayed at New York City Ballet and had you been able to stay, at some point during your career there, that would have happened, and we all have to find ourself and our own voice. Especially you read interviews with principal dancers or people who are doing the lead on Broadway. Well, when I finally realized that it was me that was shining, like and found myself, that's when they really come into their own as artists. So in a way, I feel like you and Amy and Tiff and all of us, and including me, and all of us at about the same age had that sort of traumatic experience that at a young age made us go, you have to find yourself, and you have to find the strength within yourself now to be able to keep going. And I really think that is something that I see in common in a lot of young directors, young choreographers in the dance world, that they had to figure it out sooner than maybe someone who didn't figure it out till later in their dance career, like in their late 30s or early 40s or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm so glad it happened young, because now I've had all of these years of like, I guess, the discovery process, which was like its own thing and continues till now, but now I'm also like doing what I really love to do. So that's great. But it's funny because so many people tell you that as a student too, and like I said, auditions, like they're not going to hire you if they don't like see, confidence, or that you know who you are. And I'm like, I'm 18.
I know who I am yet. But also, like, some of those tough experiences are really what show us who we are. Like, the folks that necessarily have it handed to them. And I'm not saying anyone really does, but it doesn't always resonate the same way. The confidence isn't the same type of confidence.
Yeah.
So before we get into Converge, because we're at the point where you were in Ballet Next, you met Tiffany and Amy, who our audiences know from you guys being here, from y'all being guest artists, just a lot of great stuff. I want you to talk a little bit, because we haven't really featured any, what I would call, freelance performers in this series. So you don't have to give us a definition of what a freelance dancer is, but talk about the life of a freelancer, someone who's not necessarily tethered to a specific company.
Yeah, so it's a lot about networking. Like,
why I never did it, because I don't like networking.
Well, I don't either. Secret. But it's all about just like expanding your pool, especially in a city like New York, where it is so dense. And once you get into it, like, the freelance world is so dense. It's amazing. But so anyways, I like dipped my toe in with Ballet Next, and then eventually started expanding from there. A lot of connections from New York City Ballet helped me out in the beginning. Like, I did a gig with Ashley Bowder's little spin-off company and a few other people that I knew from there. But then you like meet dancers that you get along with, or you're like interested by the way they move, and you're like, I don't know, what classes do you take? And kind of you just start building, it feels like a family, or like you're a corner of the freelance universe, and you like sort of stitch together a lot of different jobs. There's a lot of learning, like what types of work you like, what types of environments you like. There's kind of the rule of three of like, is the work good? Does it pay well? Do you like the people you're working with? Is sort of something to look at when deciding on where to go. But I worked a lot with Julia Gleich, with Gleich Dances, who was fantastic and taught me a lot about using the point shoe differently in a way that was, she has a lot of Cunningham background, so there was a lot of like groundedness but liftedness through the shoe. And obviously Converge Dance, we kind of created our own world that reached people like Gabrielle Lamb, who's so like, anyways, all these people have like influenced my dancing in lots of different ways, which is another thing I love about freelancing, is you're kind of stacking up your own training or stacking up your own career, and you're just always sort of diving into these different genres, if we loop it back, or different ways of working, different choreographers who look at movement differently than you, and then there's just all these voices in your head that are helping you, sort of establish what you do, or, build on your art form, I guess, so.
But it's not, I mean, it's not for everyone. It's not easy.
No,
even finding how to stay in shape, like that's a learning curve for a freelancer.
Totally.
Because you're either paying for class, or you have a side job that you can't get to class so that you can get to your rehearsals. Yeah. Did you feel that steep learning curve coming from such a rigorous environment? And how, like, give me a number. How long did it take for you to feel like comfy as a freelancer? Or maybe you still don't, I don't know.
I guess comfy is different, because like New York is an expensive city, and that's like the reality of it. So getting enough like dance jobs together plus side jobs is like, it's difficult. I was lucky, I made a good choice to get my Pilates certification, which helped keep me in shape and injury free, but also was able to pay the bills pretty well. So that was a good move, but it's still so difficult to like, sweat all day and like dance for hours a day, and then you go and teach people, and you're supposed to still have things to offer them, and you're like, I'm tired. But anyways, so there was a steep adjustment. I guess there's many, there's also an ebb and flow, so I guess maybe...
Well, and a huge ebb and flow based on what we all just went through with the
the pandemic was like, very interesting. It's its own story. But I guess I would say I felt comfy when I started to really feel like I had found like a corner of people that I liked to work with. Like I said, Julia, Gabrielle, Robin Cantrell has a company in New York, and even just different shows I would like to see, or different almost sister companies that I never worked with, but just appreciated them in my periphery, I guess. Once that really started to solidify, and was even present like in like the music world. Like my boyfriend's a musician, Amy, Tiff, and I all love live music, so there was also this little like music bubble of things that we loved.
Right.
I guess building the community was the biggest thing.
Exactly, and you can sort of pass inspiration back and forth in a community like that.
Yeah, and it's a huge part of Converge Dance too, which felt very like present in the show we just did in August. We're like, we have a great community of all different kinds of artists, even costumes, lighting design, and it just felt like, you know, really we had built something very special around us that I think we have as a company, but we also have as individuals, which is nice.
So let's talk about Converge Dance a little bit. So I love hearing this story from different perspectives from all three of you. So you and Amy and Tiffany were in Ballet Next, and then, like, how?
I guess we all moved on from Ballet Next at the same time, and we were all kind of back in that same situation I was in right before Ballet Next, where it's like, well, where do we work? What do we do? Also, the three of us really like dancing together. We really like working together in the studio. So we kind of just rented space together, as you do in New York, and we're like, let's try improvising. All of these things. A lot of like post-ballet angst to work out, I'll say, like baby choreographers just like eager and playing with movement, and it was great. We again have our like musician circle of friends. We did a show in a basement bar, was our very first show. I was injured, so Amy and Tiff did a duet on a stage that, I don't know, I'm like, it's this big, but it felt that big with two people in this essentially a talent show in a basement of a Brooklyn bar. This duet went on to become Realigned, which Ballet Vero Beach actually performed.
Absolutely.
So it's been through several iterations, but a lot of that, album release shows for friends and things. And then we put together a mini show that featured Realigned, or a version of it. I think I did a solo to Meg Farrell's music. She also came down here to perform at Riverside Dance Festival. We had 9 people in the audience, 9 best friends.
Did you hear that, audience members? Sometimes you come to a Ballet Vero Beach show and we have multiple numbers for the first Converge show, and that was in New York City.
It was a little studio showing, but anyways, a really good friend of ours saw us, and he liked our work a lot, and his name's Jason Andrew, and they wanted to become our fiscal sponsor, and we were like, oh, that's exciting. And then, I feel like things just kind of snowballed. We never knew what we were doing. We never meant to become a company. We simply liked working together, and we liked working with other artists, and that has just slowly compounded into the Converge Dance that we are today. So.
Well, and I think that I shouldn't put it this way, but that we never knew what we were doing is one of the reasons that I personally found your work so compelling in the very beginning. Like most people in our audience know this story, but I'll tell it one more time. When we had Wendy Whalen, who's now the Associate Artistic Director of New York City Ballet, down here promoting her documentary, I said to her, Wendy, I can't get out of Vero Beach to New York or anywhere else that I want to like see what's going on in contemporary ballet. Who do you know? And she literally said Converge Dance. So I don't know if she like remembered you from New York City Ballet, Jordan, or like whether she had seen a show or something. But I said, great. And I looked you guys up and I said, hey, do you guys want to come down and do a collaboration at the Museum of Art? And what you guys brought to the table it's sort of the same thing that Ariel and I were talking about in the January version of this series this year. It's a unique artistic voice that doesn't necessarily look like everything else. And I don't know if that's because there are 3 of you and you are all constantly bouncing ideas off each other. I don't know if it's because you all 3 come from these amazing ballet backgrounds, but it really, not knowing what you're doing is working for you. Like, I think that is, and we've had, since you've not known what you're doing, like, you three and I have sat down and talked about, like, well, maybe you do want to get your 501c3, or maybe you do want to, like, we have talked about, at least on the business end, knowing what you're doing more, but even to the point of you guys invited Camilo and I to a virtual, we were on Zoom dress rehearsal of the last show that you guys did this summer, which was huge for you guys. It was a full evening. There were other dancers. There was scenery. There was props. There was projections. Yeah. So at least in the beginning, being able to not know what you're doing and have that unique voice, I think, has served you guys really well, because now, even though you do know what you're doing, in my opinion, you still have a very unique perspective and a very unique point of view, which is, I think, why audiences really gravitate towards you. Yeah. There wasn't a question in there. I just wanted to compliment Jordan for a while she's on camera and I'm not. So let's talk about your time with Ballet Vero Beach. We talked about the fact that you and Amy and Tiffany, you are Jordan, came down and showcased some of your work at the Museum of Art and created a piece with Camilo that has now entered our permanent rep. We were able to bring you guys down as part of the Riverside Dance Festival to work with the kiddos. You and Amy have been down as guest artists and other things, and now we're to the point where you and Amy and a new Converge friend of yours, Giovanna, were here in January, but you are staying on for what at the end of this will be a whole nother month to create the role of the Firebird in Camilo's new Firebird. Please don't compliment me, but what makes you continue to say yes to coming to Vero?
Well, I can't not compliment you because you complimented me, but I guess it's just the environment here at Vero.
Do we check off, does it pay well? Do you like the people you work with? And what's the third thing?
Do you like the work?
Great.
Check.
Check.
So if you go through your basic checklist, we've got those. But no, like we met, I don't know, a long time ago now, 2018 or something.
My math is fuzzy on years.
Yeah, I guess my like personal dance journey between 2018 and now has felt to me like a lot. Like I've done a lot of growth and went from kind of like still a bunhead baby at that point, and now I feel I feel different than that. But the fact that you all have supported Converge Dance through that journey, and each of us as artists through that journey, and every time we come back, you're like, yeah, you're the dancer in front of me, and that's who I'm making work for, not, the person you were years ago or the person that I initially hired. It like allows for growth, which is great. You're also fantastic to work for because you treat your dancers as people. You're kind, blah, 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 all this good stuff. But
there's someone somewhere watching this that's laughing when you just called me kind.
Like, he's kind.
It might be a child, it might be an adult. Who knows? Anyways, go ahead.
But anyways, all of those things, it's nice to just have a company that's consistent and, likes you for the dancer person you are and continue to be. So that's why I keep coming back, because I feel like I can grow here.
I mean, it's also Florida in January and February versus New York.
Yeah, I was trying to talk about dance, but I mean, avoiding winter at all costs is also very, very nice.
So, thank you. We do appreciate that. And I think that speaks, it's sort of a two-way street. It speaks to the fact that when you find artists that are really bringing themselves to whatever is thrown at them, it inspires choreographers like myself, like Camilo, like Ariel, like you guys, to really then treat them with that sort of respect and sort of allow them to bring something unique to the process and the experience. So I want to ask you a few questions about Firebird, since it is the anchor ballet on Program 2 coming up. What has the process been like? Because the work is small. There's only 4 members of the cast, and I know that you've danced with Anders and Catherine and a little bit Alyssa before, but you're coming into an environment where they have been, in the studio with Camilo and I 24/7 for the better part of a year for Alyssa, and on and off before that, and Anders and Catherine for this third year now, and better part of before that. Was the process smooth integrating with them? Is it, what has that been like, just being in that sort of intense and very small environment?
Good question. I would say it feels pretty smooth from my perspective, just because I have worked with Catherine and Anders before, and I've met Alyssa before, and have worked with Camilo what feels like quite a bit, so I don't feel like a total stranger coming into it, but yeah, I don't know, it's nice to have like a class environment where everyone, I guess, is very much working on themselves, but it's such a positive class environment. Like, all the dancers here are just so like welcoming, and not a lot of, I don't know, I'm gonna say expectations, but I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, there's no expectations. It's just like you can, again, be yourself and work as you need. So,
do you have, or had you had throughout your career, any experience with the original Firebird score? Did you ever dance in Ballets?
No, I think I understudied the monsters.
Yes.
But
monsters.
But
no monsters
couldn't wear the cool Chagall suits, sadly.
Yeah.
But
So
no, not really.
Jordan's talking about the fact that in George Balanchine's Firebird, all the costumes are Marc Chagall, right?
I think so, or at least the scenery and the monsters, for sure.
Yeah. No Chagall costumes for us, but we do have the fantastic Amy Vogue, who is making some spectacular stuff.
Yeah, can't wait to see.
So, without any preconceived notion of having been the Firebird before or anything like that, what has it been like sort of creating a dramatic role like that, and the fact that Camilo's version, there's a real world element and then there's a fantasy world element. Have you had a lot of experience creating narratives and stories, and have you even thought about it at this point?
I guess in my work, narrative and story is something that I've recently started, investigating in like my choreography and film work, but this is a very specific story with very like clear characters. Like, I'm the teacher who transforms into the Firebird and teaches the students about transformation. So it is fun to have something that's so clear, but also it's so clear in Camilo's head. Like, he was telling us why he casted each of us as the roles that we are, and said a few reasons why he thinks I'm a good teacher candidate or whatever, and I was like, oh, okay, so those are the things to tap into for this role.
I want to know.
I'm organized and keep people together, and other things I don't remember.
You can't see me, audience, but I am nodding my head back here. Those are both things that I know to be true about Jordan.
I don't know, compassionate maybe, but something like this. And then, I don't know, it's fun to be a bird. I love birds.
I feel like that's just a thing that, like, even like everyone that gets into ballet at one point we want to be a bird. Even the boys. Like, my experience in Trocadero, like it was the hardest thing I ever did, but doing Act 2 Swan Lake, I'm like, finally, I feel like a bird.
Yeah.
After all these years. Like,
yeah, it's just a fun role to emulate, I guess. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what you work with a lot of original music in converged dance. How has it been working with this? It's brand new. David Homan is the composer of the score, but he took themes from the original Stravinsky and sort of updated it and reshaped it, not just for our narrative, but to make it a little bit more accessible to audiences. How has it been working with this brand new score?
Yeah, the score is beautiful. It's very interesting, and I would say, no pun intended, keeps you on your toes as a dancer, because it is rooted in Stravinsky, whose music is like notably irregular and just crazy. I find so many times when like figuring out musicality or trying to put steps to music, the music will go in the complete opposite direction of what I expect, or it'll cut off like, an inch or two of the music that I'm expecting to be there, which then I love playing with musicality and things when I dance, so it keeps that element really fun and interesting, challenging. But yeah, I guess it's a very like emotional and evocative score naturally. So to hear it revamped is fun.
You danced in January in Ori, which David composed, and you danced in Rust, which David co-composed with Stefania de Kennedy, and now you've got this new score of his for Firebird. Do you see similarities in the other scores? Have you found any sort of through line or like some David signatures? I guess with the other two, I didn't know he co-composed Rust, so that's interesting because Converged Dance actually did a film that David composed for and Ariel choreographed. I forgot that.
Yeah, but which is funny because I feel like Ori and the piece of music he created for that had more similarities to me. In Rust, I was like, oh, that one feels a little bit divergent or different, and Firebird, I guess, just being based on a full score also feels like, David's there, but it's not like a full David score. But yeah, it's interesting to hear and dance to, I guess, 4 pieces of his music now. It's like very complicated. There's always new things to find and listen to, which if you're doing multiple shows keeps things interesting. So yeah.
Very cool. What would you say you are looking forward most to sort of the audience getting out of Firebird?
It's just such a fun ballet right now. We're still in the process of like choreographing it. I think maybe we're on the last section today, but everyone's characters are so clear and so genuine. It's just like, it does feel like, kids having a bunch of fun together and kind of going through that journey of finding yourself, I guess, that we were talking about earlier.
Look at her bringing it back to the beginning of the interview. Yes, Jordan, yes.
But it's that whole journey taking place in a ballet that's like accessible for kids in a way where they might see themselves on stage. And I always love performing for people who maybe it's their first time seeing ballet, or kids who are just new and getting excited about dance and things like that. So it feels very geared for them, and yeah, it's an audience I like to dance for. So.
Awesome. Well, we try and do things here that are satisfying for both the artists and the audiences, and you are certainly a huge part of that. So
thanks.
Everyone, we look forward to seeing Jordan on stage as the teacher / Firebird in Camilo's new Firebird. Part of Program 2 coming up in a couple weeks. Get your tickets now. And Jordan, we hope to have you back many more times over many seasons.
Great.
And thank you for sitting down with me today.
Thanks.